Lebo, thank you very much for your time. You know, just watching Zahara and listening to the emotion in her voice, clearly it's brought it all back to her. And to then talk about it publicly, it seems an incredibly brave thing to do. Would you agree?
It is incredibly brave. And I hope that wherever she is getting the kind of support that, you know, she deserves. Because you know, it does not matter when the incident happened. You can hear the pain, which is very typical of people, even if they speak after 20 years, that they almost relive the trauma. That is the kind of trauma that does not leave you. And unless she gets the kind of help and professional help that she deserves and she needs, this is going to be something that stays with her forever. My heart goes out to her, and I really want to send her a message of love and support for the ordeal that she has gone through.
I mean, this was a terrible incident. She was pepper sprayed in the face by this policeman who told her that he was going to rape her. He had a gun on him, and it is pure luck that she was able to get away and her house was close by. But nevertheless, that trauma stays, as you say. How important is it to hear these stories? It's not just hearing a horror story of someone who's really famous. There's a very important role for society in hearing these messages from people that we look up to.
So, one, I think it's important for Zahara. Let's not forget her at this point in time. Because often when you have been a victim of abuse or a survivor of this kind of violence, you blame yourself because the violence itself is stigmatized. Many times people ask themselves, what could I have done? What could I have avoided? So for her to own her story and to say, this is what happened to me, she is naming you know, what happened. And violence thrives when there is also secrecy. And you can imagine what she was going through knowing this but not speaking about it. So in the first place, speaking about it, it's important for her. Speaking about it for the community is to actually make us aware that the rapist is not a stranger out there. You know, it's very telling with the recent attacks in Cape Town by policemen to realize that women are on their own in South Africa. And even at the hands of somebody who is supposed to be a police service, you could actually have them acting with impunity. And I bet you, and I suspect that this was not the first time or the last time that this policeman was doing this, and that they were exerting their power on many women, particularly in rural communities or in communities where they know that you would actually stop a police car to ask for a lift or for any other assistance for that matter. So the importance of this story is to also dispel the myth that it is done by other people or rape is perpetuated by strangers. And I hope that, you know, and I don't know what Zahara herself wants to do with this case, but like with many other cases of gender-based violence and sexual assault, we look at the police and it is a moment of reckoning for the police. So the importance is to shed a spotlight on industries and different people around where this happens.
Do you think that Zahara sharing her story will encourage other women to speak out? And do you think it's important that those women speak out publicly? Because, of course, there are all sorts of risks. We know what social media is like. It can be so brutal, especially with famous people. But do you think it's a good thing to speak out if you feel able to?
It's a good thing for Zahara if that's what she chooses for herself. It is not a one cap fits all for the reasons that you note. So there is somebody that is probably listening to this and is able to empathize and actually say, you know what, this also happened to me. But everybody needs to make that decision for themselves. I wouldn't advocate, because I think the person who went through the is the most important. In other words, if for them speaking out is important, then they should do that. And as I said, speaking out for the person that is a survivor, it's important in saying, I'm not going to live in shame. Because when you live in shame, you are almost in partnership with the person who perpetrated this. You are saying this is going to be our little secret. That is how even child sexual abuse happens, where the perpetrator will want the child to keep quiet and even say, I'm going to kill you or kill your own family. And for that reason, when somebody speaks out, they are saying, I'm not going to live in shame. But it is certainly not a recipe for everybody. It is also not a recipe for an audience to then say, who else is out there that I know that has been raped. However, when a person has made a decision to speak out, you want them first to have the support that they need, but you also want to applaud them for the bravery. Because unfortunately, we still live in a society that will protect the perpetrator more than it protects the survivor. As you rightfully said, many people would be interested in questioning and poking holes at the story rather than women.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Such an important message that you're sharing with us now. That is Lebo Ramafoko, gender activist, and of course speaking about Zahara's message today to ETV, talking about her sexual attack.